Hey there, my name is Rob Schnetzer. I'm one half the marketing team here at Sages. And if you follow IT news, you've probably seen kind of an interesting trend lately. There has been a lot more Android and iOS malware being found out in the wild. And if you think about it, that kind of makes sense with more and more people ditching their large laptops and not wanting to carry those things around with them. More and more personal data is stored on cell phones and specifically smartphones of any type, with us doing our banking online and with us doing shopping online, and that becoming more and more prevalent over the years and as things pass and technology gets smaller. We've got this little computer in our pocket and it stores nearly every bit of critical data and information about us and who we are as people on those cell phones. Just to put a finer point on this, Pew Research actually did a study that said that over 96% of Americans right now, as we speak, own a cell phone of some kind. And the majority of that is going to be smartphones. So 81% of people own smartphones of some kind, with only 15% owning a cell phone but not a smartphone. If you go to the website Business of Apps and look at some of the app statistics, in 2018 there was 194 billion apps downloaded. That's up from 178 billion in 2017. And depending on who you look at as far as research goes, the most downloaded app is either going to be WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger. To go along with that, the most downloaded genre of app is going to be games, and that's both through Google Play and the Apple App Store. So one of the first questions that we need to answer is, do I download an antivirus for my phone? And honestly, the jury is still out on this. There are some sites that will tell you that it's better to be safe than sorry. Go ahead and download one with a couple of caveats. And then there are some sites that will tell you that it is absolutely unnecessary because your base permissions will keep your Android or iPhone safe. It's probably going to be a little bit of both. So as long as you're running an antivirus program on your phone that is from a reputable company, such as AVG or McAfee's or Norton's, one of those antiviruses ought to do pretty good, and they'll probably do exactly what they say they do. This next tip will actually work for both Android and iOS. If you do feel like ever dipping your toe into the pool of another app store, in other words, a third-party app store that is not run by Google or Apple, just be aware of the fact that they do not have the same high standards as Google and Apple. In a lot of cases, for these third-party app stores, you are going to get into companies that have fewer development restrictions and developer restrictions than what you see being used by Apple, for instance. Samsung and Amazon both run very legitimate third-party app stores, but just be aware that there are some out there that might have some questionable stuff on them. This next tip is another universal tip that'll work for Android or iOS. Before downloading any app, you always want to read a couple of reviews into it. Your fellow users are actually going to be your first line of defense if an app has a malicious property to it, or in fact if the app is just generally broken. Now, the app developer can ask that Apple or Google review a review if it has some inappropriate content, but can't directly delete bad reviews of their product. Don't always just look at an overall score. Some apps can review very well in the first couple of months that they're out, and then updates and changes to the app can break the app or make them less secure. It will still review or have a high star rating, but the reviews can paint a different picture about the app. One of the last red flags that we have for you is the permissions that the app is asking for. Now, on any modern Android or iOS phone, the apps that you're installing will ask for certain permissions in order to use certain system features of your phone. For instance, if you're downloading a voice recorder, it will ask for permission to use your microphone. That would be completely in line with what it's trying to do. But if you've downloaded a calendar app and it starts asking permission to use your camera, that should be a big red flag for you, and at that point, you probably need to stop and remove it from your phone. As far as apps that are on your phone, you can find permissions for each app in iOS It's under Settings, and then tapping on the app. And in Android, you can go to Settings, then Apps, and select the app itself. So I hope at least one of these tips actually gives you a little bit of insight as to what you need to look for when it comes to downloading these third-party apps. The likelihood that you're going to find a malicious one is pretty unlikely, but your common sense and just using your head when you're downloading something plays a big part in this. Just remember, look at those permissions, make sure you read the reviews on the app, and if it looks suspicious, don't download it. If you have any questions for us or comments or have any blog suggestions, please send those to us at marketing@sages.com. We do one of these every week, and until then, we will see you later.